For any of us who've ever struggled with weight gain and weight loss, it feels like one of the most insurmountable problems in life. And as our hormones and metabolism change, it becomes more daunting. Hi, everyone. I'm Andy Asher, editor over here at Bloomer Boomer. In her late 50s, Sue Reynolds was a staggering 335 pounds on a 5'7" frame and struggled through diet program after diet program, and nothing worked. In 4 years, she transformed herself using the power of hope, tenacity, and faith. She tells her amazing transformational fitness journey in her debut book, The Athlete Inside. Sue Reynolds, I want to thank you for joining us today, and that's a pretty amazing story on the surface.
Thank you, Andy. It's my pleasure to be here, and it's always a joy to share my journey and the lessons I've learned that I hope will help others.
Well, good. Not only is your journey amazing in its own right, but it's also a metaphor in a way about what it takes to achieve a dream. Tell us about what was different mentally or what emotionally in the changes that took place that made this work when everything else had failed.
Yeah, I think that when you're starting any journey, and you're right, this is a story that applies to lots of different journeys, not just weight loss and fitness. But I think when you're starting any journey, it's really important to have a meaningful why, your rationale for why you want to make that change. And the stronger your why, the better, because when you get into those situations, like in my case, when there were 2 dozen cookies in front of me and I wanted to eat them all, having a really strong why keeps you on task.
I've
And
never
stuff.
heard I've never heard that why. Now that why. Okay, you gave an example there of eating an extra cookie that you don't need. What other examples of why might apply to someone who may want to get a better job in life or may want to find a partner in life? How does why apply to that situation?
Well, I think it's really just soul searching, just looking within yourself and looking at your values and what you think is important. And when your why is connected to the thing inside of you that you think is important, it makes it a whole lot easier. So, if you're looking for a spouse, what is it that's important to you, and why is it important to you to have a spouse? And if you're looking to climb a career ladder, what is it that's so important for you? So that when you're facing those sacrifices, that you'll stay on task.
That makes a lot of sense, and a lot of your lessons, as we say, can be applied to other life obstacles that you just cited.
Absolutely, absolutely.
Yeah. Now, most of us who have weight problems, well, we have difficulty discussing it. Now, you are probably over that by now. Is what can I make that assumption?
Yes, absolutely. I'm very comfortable talking about the weight that I was, and actually, even when I was overweight, I was comfortable talking about it. So yeah, I'm fine with that.
Yeah,
Yes.
well, I figured that we're talking about 10 years ago. You're in your late 50s. You're an obese, 335 pounds. Knowing how obesity and the weight battle works, you had probably had weight problems for a while. Can you talk about that for us?
Yeah, I actually became overweight later in life. I was relatively thin as a child and as a teenager. Um, and actually, this all kind of ties back to my why. When I started to become overweight as a young adult, I wanted to be thin, but my reason was because society told me I should be thin. I should look like a Barbie doll, or those models, Twiggy, those models that I saw in my youth on TV. And that wasn't really a strong enough why for me to keep me on task. But when I got so obese, and I became obese as an adult, because I had a job that I absolutely loved. And I worked a lot of all-nighters because I was passionate about my job. It brought me joy. And to stay awake in my job, when I was pulling an all-nighter, and I'd pull 2 or 3 a week, I would eat. I would eat to stay awake, and then the next day I'd be tired, and then I'd eat to stay awake some more. And the more successful my career became, the larger I got.
That's
So
fascinating. Gosh,
yeah,
you must be a very determined person. I mean, pulling all-nighters and all that. Not everybody has done that or will do that.
yeah. I think that's one of the qualities that I do have is I get passionate about things, and my job involved. I started a nonprofit that helps schools improve, and especially schools that serve lower income kids, and it was a passion of mine. I felt like I was doing really good work, and I think that's why your why is so important, because when you're working from the heart, when you're passionate about what you're doing, it's just so much easier to stay on task.
Yeah. Now, um, 335 pounds is pretty heavy. So you must have had an absolute awareness of that. It wasn't as if your job took all priority and your weight
Yeah.
was that secondary.
Yeah, it was interesting because my awareness was not because of my appearance. Again, I rarely looked in the mirror except when I was brushing my hair, and I just kind of didn't pay attention to my physical appearance. But where it became an issue was at 335 pounds. I was so big size wise that I couldn't do things that I wanted to do. So I couldn't fit, for example, into a restaurant booth. I couldn't walk very far at all without being totally out of breath. I couldn't even stand up and talk at the same time. But the worst thing was I couldn't tie my shoes because my belly was so big, I just couldn't reach over it to get to my feet. So every morning I'd have to ask my husband to put my shoes and socks on
My
for
goodness.
me.
Well, you know,
Yeah,
you don't strike me as one of those guilt-ridden, obese people who, their nightmares about their weight. You seem to have taken it in stride in a way.
yeah. I think that my sense of self was more based on who I was on the inside rather than my physical appearance. And I knew that I was a kind person most of the time, and so I liked who I was on the inside, and my appearance didn't matter so much to me.
Well, that says a lot about you because so many people are, their physical appearance is so vitally important. So it says something about you that more of us probably should learn from in a way.
Yeah, yeah. Not only about ourselves, but how we judge other people for their appearance, and that's something you just can't tell who someone is on the inside, or if they're disciplined or a hard worker or whatever, just by looking at them.
Well, I jump ahead a little bit because I was going to ask you this, but it seems more appropriate now. How do you talk to people who live in such guilt and misery over the fact that they know how heavy they are and they feel so bad about it? I mean, you must have a message for people like that.
Yeah, what I try to do is just tell my story and let people take out of it the messages that make sense for them. Um, but again, coming back to that why, I think part of my story is that if your why for losing weight is to please other people, then that's probably not going to cause you to stick with it when the food that you love is in front of you. But if your why is to be healthy, or to fit in a restaurant booth, or to be able to exercise or whatever, then then absolutely you can go down that path. I'm proof. I lost 200 pounds, and I wasn't thinking about being a world class triathlete when I first started this journey. I was just hoping to lose a little bit of weight. And
Yeah. Well, so you have to have a super strong why. I mean, that why has to be really important.
absolutely,
Yeah,
yes,
yeah, and never to be forgotten as you go through this transition.
yeah,
Yeah.
yes.
So you say you tried all the diets. It seems like what changed for you, you found a powerful goal that you wanted to achieve.
Mhm.
Is that similar to how it was for you?
Yeah, absolutely. In the beginning, I wanted to be able to fit into the restaurant booth, and then after I started exercising, I um, I started having these daydreams about doing a triathlon. I never thought that I would do one. That was, the farthest thing from my mind, but it was fun to daydream about it. And it gave purpose to my
Yeah. A lot
exercise.
of people dream about that, and if you can achieve your dream, most anyone else can. Tell us about how you discovered the athlete inside. What sudden revelation? How did it take place with you?
Yeah, so the exercise, and again, this is part of what I think people can take from my story is that exercise doesn't have to start out being really intensive. My first exercise was to walk to the neighbor's driveway and back. It was about 100 yards. And, when you're carrying around an extra 200 pounds, if you're trying to exercise with your obese, that's no easy task. And of everything that I've done, that was probably one of the hardest things, but it was the thing that I'm most proud of is just taking those first steps.
Yeah,
So yeah,
and how did you view the weight scale that was in your bathroom or wherever? What was your attitude towards your scale?
well, it was interesting in the beginning. A lot of scales at that time stopped at 300 pounds, so I
Oh,
couldn't even
yeah.
weigh myself. So yeah, but then I really like using data in journeys, and getting on the scale every morning and weighing myself was part of the data. And when I could see that I lost a steady 1.5 to 2 pounds every week, I figured, gosh, if I did this for 50 weeks, 52 weeks, a year, there I could lose 100 pounds in a year.
You
So
know, I think what you're kind of saying is break things into smaller pieces.
yeah, absolutely. And just to take that first step and celebrate, to
Uh-huh.
do that first walk to the neighbor's driveway 100 yards, and then come back and feel good about yourself because you exercised.
Yeah. I'm
Mhm.
not one of those trainer gurus, but my guess is you might have been told that your goals aren't realistic. Now, in 4 years, you lost 200 pounds. It's hard to even imagine that. To going from 335 to 135 without some special goal, and you really answered that in a way. It was, in a sense, it was why.
Yeah, and the whys can change over time. So in the beginning, my why was to fit in the restaurant booth, and then my why was, to be able to do that triathlon and then to improve in triathlon. And then when I started competing at the international level, that why I found that I love competing and I love triathlon, and so that why became very, very strong.
So, at what point did the whole fitness aspect of it come into your life? Because it sounds like that was not the immediate goal that you had. It's yeah.
No, so after I started walking, and like we went to the first driveway on the first day, and then the second driveway the second day, and the third driveway the third day, and eventually, and every day after I walked, I would text my children. That was kind of an accountability piece. I didn't realize it then, but I would text my children and I'd say, "Woohoo! I walked to the fourth driveway," and my kids would text back, "Good job, mom." So after I had been walking for about 6 months, one of my sons convinced me that I could walk in a 5K event, and a lot of people will run them, but you can walk, and you can walk with strollers or your dogs. You don't have to go fast. And so I just went very, very slow. I finished dead last, but when I came across that finish line, I just felt like I'd won the Boston Marathon. I was so proud and so happy. I never thought that I could do that. And yeah, so that was 6 months in. And then about a year after that, I did my first triathlon.
Well, good for you. Um, there's so many messages I'm sure people will get out of your book, but overall, what is it you hope to share with people?
Yeah, I think the main thing is that we can transform our lives at any age. Whoever the person is that you'd like to be, you can become that person. And I think in the book I write a lot about the lessons I've learned about how to transform. And then the other message, the second one, is about the power of kindness. There were so many people that were kind to me, perfect strangers in my journey. My coach, who was younger than my children, was amazing in his ability to helped me develop my confidence and helped me moving forward. He's just been great and very kind. So those are the two messages. We can transform our life at any age, and there is power in kindness.
Uh, do people treat you any differently today than they did 10 years ago?
I don't think so. No,
Yeah.
still me.
Yeah, and well, that's a wonderful story. I and I think that it's great you're sharing it, and I thank you so much for joining us.
Thank you very, very much. So the book is called The Athlete Inside. It's available now for pre-order on Amazon. It'll be released on April 28th. And if anyone is interested in following me, following my journey, my continuing journey, as I compete on behalf of the United States in triathlon at World Championships, they can go to SueReynolds.net.
Sue, thank you so much for joining us. It was fascinating.
Thank you very much.
Well, our guest is Sue Reynolds. Her book comes out at the end of the month, The Athlete Inside. And you can get it here, Bloomer Boomer. And thanks for joining us, and we will catch you next time. So long.